we will continue. So the way this goes in, it's got a spacer that goes here. Like that. That's interesting. Because that's going to press in there. Okay, so I need, let's go ahead and do this guy who goes right in front of him. This one put in. Let's get this in there. Like that. That's interesting. That one went all the way in. That one didn't. If there's a burr or something in there keeping that from going in. I don't know. There we go. We get in one way or another. I'll tell you what, by the way, this little tool here, I've had this tool forever. And I buy all these real fancy tools and Allen wrenches and everything else. And this thing, I tell you what, it comes in handy a lot. So very thankful to have that. All right, so got the nut to stick on here. It's pretty tight. We have to have some adjustments there. Make sure that spins as free as possible. Let's go ahead and get these tightened down. So we know what we're dealing with. Oh, actually, let's put in that the other sprocket first. So this one uses this little guy. It's a tensioner. It spins relatively freely. Okay. Let's so it goes in like this. And of course it's going to be a spacer in here too. Whew, that's hard to get to. Come on. It wants to line up. It is really close to lining up. It's for some reason slightly off. This needs to go down. That's what the problem is. Oh, come on. All it takes is just getting a little cockeyed in here, and then it doesn't want to go. So we'll get it. It's in, but it's not loose at all, which is surprising because it was before. So I don't know exactly what's going on with it. It wasn't this tight before. So we've got some pretty tight tolerances going on here. So that spins all nice and free. This is a little tight. Yeah, see, here's where our problem is. So you see here, this is right up against here. This is getting bowed. And actually, if I was to stick this in here, you might see a little bit more. So you see how that's all nice. That's got a gap in it. Because this, and this has no gap. So clearly, there's some tolerance issues here. And probably what needs to happen is this spacer probably needs to be machined down a little bit, so it allows this to close. Probably the same with that spacer, to be honest, because this side you can see too, like everything is just bowing out. There's a gap here. So yeah, I don't know what's going on with this guy. I mean, he's spinning, but for some reason it's not lining up right for this to be able to go up and down like it's supposed to. This is supposed to be able to move freely in here. So something's off with that. So we got some tolerance problems. This is the kind of stuff you deal with Johnny 5. Everything is never been put together before, and you've got to make it work. So I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to work on this a little bit, and I'll be back.
A few moments later.
Okay, so after analysis of the mechanism here, I have figured out that these sprockets are a little larger in width than the CAD shows. So what that ended up meaning is that these guys here were going to need to be adjusted. So I took these out, I put them on the lathe, and I took a little bit off on those in order to have them where they can fit into the mechanism here. So we're going to try that out now. So we'll just drill these in, and ideally this all should go together now and not get stuck. Okay, that turns very freely, it really does. Not an issue there at all. Let's try this one now. All right. Yeah, which means, by the way, I had to back this gear off a little bit. It was too far to the right. So it's lined right up with those now. So that's great. It's great news. So we'll tighten those on in a minute. What I want to see next is this guy. See if this guy is going to go on properly and be adjustable. So the way that should work is I put this in here like this. And then we will, that should go through there. Probably doing this the hardest way possible. I'm sure there's probably better ways of doing this, but it is what it is. Why is that not? That's interesting. That should slide right through there.
Later.
To finalize this build, we need to put in the correct bearing. So this is what I was talking about. See how this has a flange on the edge here and this one doesn't? That is the problem with that. So I'm going to stick this in here like so. See, can't go through. Perfect. The other two problems I had with this, one was the this guy here. A couple of issues. One, when I basically when I tapped this here, I ended up causing a little bit of a nick on the inside here, and that shaft was getting caught. So if you're going to tap that on your own, be careful not to nick that. Got that all smoothed out. I had to sand this a little bit. Works great now. And then the other issue was the sprockets. They're a little bit longer than the CAD allows. I mean, the tolerances on some of these manufactured parts are not very tight, so sometimes you just have to adjust on the fly. And on these, I had to turn these down a little bit, try it, turn it down, try it, get it to fit. So now that we have all that resolved, we're going to put this back together now. So here we go. think the next logical thing to do is to glue that into place. Okay, so I was able to get this mostly assembled. I haven't hooked up the motor yet, but I'm going to do that after I do this next part. I tell you what, this part here is quite the trick to get these to line up. You have got to get all this in line, and I don't even have this exactly how I want it, but it's going to be good enough to do a test. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to route this chain through the mechanism. That looks correct. And then you come around here like that, and then you got to connect. So it goes like that, and you got to connect there. Although I'm really hesitant to do anything with the chain, simply because I don't want to take links out and then realize I need them until I have this in place on the robot, because these screws here may need adjustment. So I think at this point, I think I'm going to end the video. I think the next time you'll see this guy is I'll have the motor hooked up to the servo board, and then the servo board hooked up to a Maestro or to the servo controller, and then we'll have this chain fully in place. But I think for the most part this has been a success. I mean, everything looks like it's all lined up and everything's ready to go. So I just want to thank everybody for joining me on this, and stay tuned for more build videos.